Hello, welcome back to the live reality game podcast. My name is Steven Stewart, and I'm here with more postseason Surviving Reelfoot, unfinished business, deep dive interviews. Ignore Survivor PC, ignore Survival Challenge because Reelfoot's where it's at. And with me today is the runner-up of the season, Megan. Megan, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me, Steven.
I'm super excited to have you back. It was a pleasure watching you go have a really deep run once again in Reelfoot.
Yeah, I actually can't believe they let me get that far in the game. But I'm excited to talk about it.
And I'm glad that you're also here tonight with me, ignoring Survival Challenge. Have you been watching any of the streams today, the past 2 days?
I looked at their Instagram feed a little bit. I saw that Bash is playing, so super excited to see how that goes. But no, I haven't really been following that much.
I am very excited to see how Bash does. You know, it's weird playing an all-star season when like your first boot, but at the same time, it's like, what does it even mean in an all-star season? What does it even say about yourself? And so I'm curious to see what if he retools or does something different for a Survival Challenge.
Yeah, I don't know how much everyone knows him. Obviously, I've played with him for quite some time, so I know him. But yeah, it'll be super interesting to see. I think it's also a really different format game, so he may be very successful in that type of format. I think that whole game is a little chaotic because of the short forms, so we'll see.
I mean, because you and I both didn't make it to merge, I believe, correct?
Correct. I did not make it to merge in the Survival Challenge.
And we both have had much more success in Reelfoot, so therefore Reelfoot's a superior game, of course.
Must be.
So we had a chance to talk last year following your first season at Surviving Reelfoot, Valor's Point. It's been a year since you had played that game. You know, what have been kind of the main takeaways or thoughts you had coming off of that season?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really think a lot about that season until probably a week before I was going to play this game, when I was thinking, why did I agree to do this again 1 year later? I think as I thought back on my first season, I had never made it to merge in a game before Fowler's Point. And so that was my first chance to play a post-merge game. And I do think that I let other people drive the game a lot more in Fowler's Point than I wanted to this time. But I think I also saw the risks in very outwardly driving the game yourself. So I really wanted to think a lot about what the best game for me to play was and try to do that.
And so is the answer like you're looking to how can it be more assertive without, for instance, the Storm vote last year where he goes home and that puts a huge target on Lauren who immediately goes out afterwards. You want how do you have more control without putting yourself in that situation, you think?
Yeah, that was the Ryan vote, and then
the Ryan vote. Sorry, Storm.
No, Storm made it to Final Tribal, which is the reason that I did not make it to Final Tribal. But I think it's about understanding what is actually necessary for you to get further in the game, and what like flexibility you have. I talked a little bit about in my Final Tribal, just making sure that, my most critical people didn't go home. Wasn't so much about like driving exactly who went home at every vote. It was more about like protecting the people that I knew were critical for my game.
So coming into this season, were there players that you really wanted to see? There are players you're like, man, I hope they don't make it onto the season.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't followed all the rest of the seasons of Reelfoot. I actually don't follow most of the orgs or LRGs that closely. So I was very concerned that a lot of people would know each other much better than I would know everyone, which turned out to be true. I think Josh was somebody I was quite concerned about seeing again.
Really? Why?
Well, one, he's very, very good at challenges. Two, I think I was a lot of the reason that he went home in that merge vote in our season. And I wasn't sure if he was there again, how much he would want me out very early.
I mean, but without Josh, who do you vote out as your merge boot? You'd be merge bootless.
I know. That's true. We would be merge bootless. Yeah, that would have been very interesting. I mean, just the way he plays his game, I feel like he is so good at challenges, and everyone knows that by challenge number 2. So like post merge, people are always super concerned about him going deep in the game. So, but yeah, I felt like he might be a person who might have it out for me from the beginning, if I saw him there. So,
well, what ends up happening is you have a Naga reunion this season, right? Because
we
you
did.
have not only you, we have Bash, we have, let's see if I'm getting everyone right. So you, Bash, Josh, and Sharif. And am I missing anyone else, or is it just the four of you? And Carly, yeah. So you have like 5 of like what, the 9 or 8 of you all end up
we were
being
missing
in this All-Star season.
Missing Julia,
Drew, Julia,
Drew, and Barbara.
And Barbara, yeah. So like, yeah, so you have 5 of the 8 players of your tribe. The only players that return this season all come from your original tribe of Fowler's Point. Yes. What was your reaction to seeing that?
I was shocked. I didn't expect to see Sharif there, because I just figured they wouldn't invite us both back, since it was so clear that we had played the game so closely in our season. But was very excited to see him there. Yeah, I mean, Bash, I don't even know. You never know what Bash is going to do. I wasn't concerned about seeing him, but I feel like he just plays a very chaotic game, which is always interesting. And yeah, Carly, I didn't really get a chance to play that much with in Fowler's Point. We were on the same tribe, but never really aligned our strategies that closely. So yeah, happy to see her there.
Was there anyone else when you saw the cast and were there on that first day that you recognized or had any strong feelings about?
Yeah, I recognized a lot of people from production. A lot of people had been on production my season, and so I had met them. Ame famously went down the water slide with me in my season, so while taking pictures. So it was a little concerning to me to see so many people there that I perceived to be so like know each other so well. But nobody I was like super concerned about. I'm always excited to meet new people, so I was excited to play with everyone. But I was trying to find people, even in these initial moments, that didn't look like they were as close to everyone. So that's why I spent some time talking to Corey, Adam, a couple of people that I thought maybe were not as tight knit with that group.
One of the opening twists that's introduced in this game is you'll have the shot in the dark, similar to how CBS has on their version of Survivor. Do you have any thoughts about that advantage?
Yeah, shot in the dark is super annoying because you always have to end up putting a vote on someone that you really don't want to. But it does, I think, especially when you're in a majority alliance, it does kind of allow you to see who's where within that alliance when the numbers get small, because you have to put a vote on someone else, just in case somebody gets a shot in the dark.
And so you hear the theme of the season is unfinished business, and we kind of talked this earlier, just like your thoughts coming out of Fowler's Point that kind of like hit you for the game. But when you hear that, do you like, yes, I have unfinished business, or like, is it winning? Is that it?
I mean, I really wanted to make it to Final Tribal Council. I really wanted to win, obviously. But I think more than that, I really wanted to like play my own game and feel like I was, in the driver's seat for my own game. I think in the 2 previous live games I've played, there have been moments where I haven't felt that way. And just because I hadn't like fully baked my strategy before I'd gotten there, I wasn't playing as aggressively as I wanted to. So that was really what I wanted to do coming into the game.
So you end up on the Galileo tribe, the yellow tribe, and this ends up being the best tribe to be on. And so you're with Todd, Carly, Skylar, Adam, Brent, and Corey. Talk me through your initial thoughts of this tribe.
Yeah, I did not think we were going to be so dominant in challenges. I thought we were well-rounded, which is good, but I didn't think we were going to be so dominant. I thought kind of everyone was a little bit in the middle of a lot of categories, right? Like, Josh is obviously the puzzle master, so he's going to beat everyone by 10 minutes in every puzzle. So that means to win a challenge, you need to get to the puzzle 10 minutes before Josh does. The blue tribe was full of a lot of big personalities. I remember seeing that. remember being shocked that Sharif and Bash got put on the same tribe. Going into the yellow tribe, I didn't think there was anybody there that I was like super close to.
Mm-hmm.
I did foresee Todd and I working pretty well together. But yeah, I think the best thing for me about the yellow tribe was it didn't feel like anyone else on that tribe was super close to each other either, which was my biggest concern coming into the game.
Mm-hmm. Well, because some of the names you were mentioning, like you have Corey, you have Adam. Those are two players you can identify as, hey, like maybe like I don't have maybe these other pre-existing relationships that maybe they don't either, and we can stick together as a result of that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I rented a car to drive to Reelfoot this year because I was like, I could be the first one out of this game. I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no idea who's going to be there. It's going to be a super crazy season. So that my biggest concern was just getting on a tribe where I felt like I wouldn't have a chance to kind of get through the first couple votes.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to bring up a post that Josh commented on, but he's like, he was excited to try and start over with you this year, but there's just never an opportunity to talk and sit down without tribal council looming the distance.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we never met up until merge. And at that point, it was a lot of things had happened already. And he had been on blue for a while, which was a crazy tribe to begin with. But yeah, we never really did get to sit down and actually have a full strategy talk before there was kind of already a lot of water under the bridge.
Well, two other players that I'd like to talk about is, Carly was in your original season. You didn't really have a shot to work with her, and here she is on your tribe.
Yeah, I love Carly. She played an amazing game this season. It was an interesting road for us because I feel like, again, this season, even though we were together for most of the game, our strategies never really aligned. I think one of the things that I was trying to do this season was make sure that I didn't, that I drove my own game and didn't give in to what other people were trying to do. And I think there were a couple of votes where Carly and I had conversations and we were talking to each other and we just end the conversation by, yeah, we're not in agreement here. And it just wasn't going to happen. But I have a lot of respect for the way she played the game. Really impressive challenge performances and really hung in there and, made some good moves strategically as well.
What about Skylar?
Yeah, I loved getting to know Skylar. We obviously got to spend a lot of time together on the original tribe. Such a fun person, so great to have around camp. It was funny because she was telling us about how she was a villain on her original season. And I was like, I can't even imagine that. But yeah, really loved getting to know her. But she was one of those people that I felt like did have a lot of connections with other folks in the game. And she talked to everyone. She was very, very social. So having people like that around always makes me a little nervous because I didn't ever feel like I was going to be closer to Skylar than she was to some of the other folks in the game.
So you have an opening reward challenge, which involves a word and scramble puzzle to end. And I believe the red tribe takes the victory, not your tribe.
Yes, I think that's correct. Oh no, we got disqualified in that challenge.
Oh, Todd disqualifies you. Yeah, there we go.
Yes.
And so you go back to camp empty-handed. What goes on that first evening at camp for the Galolo tribe?
I think a lot of it was just hanging out as a group. I remember not having that many strategy talks that first night. I think with the returning season, we all kind of know the game. So I was kind of ready to start talking strategy pretty quickly, but it seemed like it was really, us hanging out as a group, getting to know each other, starting a fire, building camp, all that good stuff.
Do you and Todd connect really early? Is that something that kind of gradually happens over the next day?
I think it was a little more gradual. We may have said one thing to each other early. The funny thing about Todd and I is I feel like in the beginning, we really didn't have to talk that much. Like we just both kind of at some point in those first couple of days were like, yeah, we're going to play this game together. Right. And we both said, yeah. And then we really didn't talk again until merge because we got separated. We never voted to get like at all on yellow. So it was that was like the worst thing about that tribe. Like, it's great to win all of these challenges, but it turns out you do not know who's with you unless you vote, and we never voted. So that was very nerve-wracking.
So in retrospect, you wish you threw a challenge?
I would never throw a challenge, to be clear.
Agreed.
I will never throw a challenge.
Okay, let me rephrase. Do you wish you had lost a challenge then?
Honestly, like, I don't think it would have changed the course of the game. So no, I don't wish we had lost a challenge. But I do think, like, when I was in pre-merge purgatory and like in those immediate votes after merge, it was really, really difficult to tell who was telling the truth and who was really with each other, because we had never voted together. So there were people telling me that we were, you know, that we were going to play together, or that we were in an alliance. And I was like, I don't really know if you're telling me the truth, because we've never voted together.
One thing Todd had told me was that he had really identified you and Sharif as two people he really want to work with. At what point is that something he verbalized to you, that, hey, I want you, me, Sharif to be locked in as a 3, or is that just kind of came naturally when merge happened later on?
I don't think I remember him talking to me that much about Sharif pre-merge. But I mean, obviously I was going to work with Sharif. I trust him. We never had turned on each other in the prior games. There wouldn't really be any reason for us to do that until very late in the game. And yeah, I knew I wanted to work with Todd immediately. He's the type of ally that I really like to have. We think the same. We're both perceived as challenge threats. So yeah, I knew I wanted to work with him from the get-go.
Anything else of note happened that first night?
I don't think so. I think the only funny thing that happened in the first night is we were trying to start the fire, and a few people were trying to start the fire, and I was trying not to start the fire. So I feel like I made all the fires in my first season. And that was like a thing. So I was trying not to start the fire, but then I ended up starting the fire. So that was not what I wanted, but I guess it was fine.
I think it sounds like you are also the fire tender as well in the tribes you're on.
Yeah. I was up in the middle of the night a lot. Also, I really hate rain and being cold. So I really like to have a fire. It's very important to me. The fire does not go out.
One last survival challenge thing. Did you see the weather this week in Macomb, Illinois?
I did not. Nice. Is it going to rain?
It's nice. It's like mid-70s all week long. I'm just like, I am so irrationally upset by this, because your season was rain, right? My season, rain. And like, nothing. I've never been more miserable than that first night in the rain with no blanket, and just, you know, like, what am I doing with myself? So
it looked like it was going to rain a lot when we were looking at the weather for Reelfoot this year.
Because it rained on you, what, night 2?
It never rained on us at night. It did pour one day for a very short period of time, and then it like rained a little bit on and off. But really, the weather was not bad.
That's a victory.
Yes.
So day 2, you have several reward challenges, and so the first reward challenge is a memory match challenge, which I believe your tribe comes out on top.
Yes. Yeah, we had a couple of people who were really good at memory. Carly's obviously amazing at memory. But a few people that were, you know, kind of better than they thought they would be, I guess. So team effort, but always good to win some rewards.
And so Adam from your tribe gets sent to go to, I believe, the Equoni, the blue camp.
Yes.
What does he tell you about the experience when he gets back?
What did he tell us? Honestly, I can't remember what he said. It's been too long since I was in the game, but I remember it being quite dramatic. He's quite a dramatic person. Also had a ton of fun getting to know him, and he was great around camp. But I remember being quite dramatic, and I think there were people who were who were a little concerned about him after that. But I didn't know any of the people on the blue tribe as well as some other folks did, so it was fine.
And then you have your last reward challenge, and this is the endurance challenge. You have to hold up the box between your legs with a partner. Who was your partner again for this?
Brent. My partner was Brent.
And I think you two end up winning this, right?
Yes, we did.
How long did you go for?
Way too long. Yeah, I was not excited to be, well, I was excited to be paired with Brent, but I wasn't excited that everyone on our tribe was like, oh yeah, we think you and Brent will be the best two at this, so you should be paired together, because I did not want to do that challenge for hours. Also, I did not work out as much as I wanted to pre-Reelfoot this year. I was not feeling like I was in peak physical condition. And I don't actually love endurance challenges like that. I don't know. We must have gone for, I don't know, a couple hours. It was a long time. Like, my legs got a very strange sunburn as a result of that challenge. Like, I had these long black socks on, and because they were black, my legs were burning. So I pushed my socks down, but then I had this part of my leg that didn't have sunscreen on and also didn't have socks on anymore. So I have
like a reverse farmer's tan almost.
Yeah, I have this striped pattern from my legs all the way from my ankles to my knees. So that was great.
I guess knowing you were never going to drop any of the temptations they brought.
No, and I really wanted the chair.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
I really wanted that chair. We had gotten a chair in our prior season, and it was amazing. I can't remember what the other comfort rewards were. Oh, the cot.
Yeah.
Was that when we got the cot?
Probably.
And sleeping mats. Yeah, that was critical. I really wanted those things.
So your tribe wins, and you end the day 2 with your first immunity challenge. This is the Reelfoot semi-annual, oh shoot, we almost drowned a player in accident challenge, where players went out, swam, retrieved items. There's some throwing balls in the buckets. There's a snake puzzle for Josh. How was this challenge for you?
Yeah, that was, well, I was doing the easy part. I was doing the boards on the boxes. Mm-hmm. But I think even before that, there was an immunity idol clue hidden in the chair from that reward, which I found. Yeah, so I had found an immunity idol clue earlier. But yeah, in this challenge, yeah, Todd and I didn't have any issues with the boards and the boxes, but it was we were very concerned about the swimmers. That was crazy. It was funny because Skylar and Brent both immediately volunteered to swim. They're like, mm-hmm. Oh yeah, we can swim. I was like, great. I do not want to get in the water. I would have swam. There were probably a few other people on our tribe, myself being one of them, who probably would have swam if necessary, but it was amazing not to have to swim.
I mean, I feel like the same way in my Reelfoot season, where 2 players volunteer. I'm like, great, you do you. Then I'm watching them like, oh no, I should have been swimming instead of them.
Oh no, I mean, Brent was like, yeah, I can sort of swim. He was so fast. It was ridiculous. And Skylar was great too. So I don't think I would have swam faster than either of them. So they did a great job.
So your tribe wins the first immunity challenge. As we round out day 2, how are you feeling?
Really good. I think we came in second in that challenge because I think mm-hmm. Josh beat us on the puzzle.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, feeling really good at that point. I had the immunity idol clue. We had some comfort at our camp. I was generally feeling really good about the folks on the tribe. I think I was a little bit unclear where I stood. I knew that Todd and I had a pretty good relationship. I expected that Skylar and Adam were probably quite close, just mm-hmm. because they're the 2 most social people on the tribe. And then it was a little bit unclear. Carly, Corey. Is that all of us? How many? There's one more person.
Todd, Carly, Skylar, Adam, Brent, Corey.
Oh yeah, Brent. I felt pretty good about Brent. Mm-hmm. After the box challenge, we had talked a little bit about playing together. But yeah, mm-hmm. Carly and Corey were a little bit unclear to me exactly where they stood. So I think going into a vote, I probably would have been a little bit nervous. Mm-hmm. But I also felt like after winning that reward challenge, I was probably not going to be the first vote. So.
Josh says, when Megan's folks were in location, they walked up to me and just said, hey, you're the puzzle guy.
Yep, that's correct.
So you found an idol clue. I assume that idol's hidden at your camp somewhere. Talk to me about idols. How big a priority was that for you, and did you spend a lot of time searching?
Yeah, I really wanted to find an idol this season. I think I figured there would be a lot of idols in the game, and I feel like I am sometimes not as observant as I should be in games, and so that was something I really wanted to improve on. I really wanted to find an idol, so getting that clue was great. Yeah, I can't remember whether it was this night or I think it was the next day when Brent ended up getting the idol.
So did he tell you that he found it? Did you find it in front
So
of you?
this is so annoying. So I had the idol clue. I looked right under, it was something about a rainbow. So I thought I knew where it was, because in our campfire there was this like rainbow shaped vine. It was very obvious. You could see it from the campfire. And so I thought I knew where the idol was, because I was like, this clue says rainbow shape. This is the one. Like, so I looked there. I like took a stick and like dug around in the middle underneath the vine, and I didn't find anything. And then I was like, well, maybe someone else found it, but I can't remember what made me tell Brent. I think someone was sleeping and everyone else had like gone somewhere, and it was just the two of us. So I told him about the clue. I showed it to him, and I was like, I think it's right there, but I looked there and I couldn't find it. And there was someone else in camp at the time. So I started talking to the other person who was in camp. He's like, okay, I'll go check. And he found it. And it was like I guess it was like by the side of where like the vine meets the ground. And I had kind of looked in the center. I don't know how I didn't find it, but he found it immediately in the exact spot where I
he put it to good use, at least.
Not for me, but yeah.
I mean, was Lydia going out later on because the idol, good or bad for your game, or neutral?
It was fine. Like, I'm glad Brent used it to save himself. I guess I was just, when I found out that he used it, given that we had never voted together as a tribe on yellow, coming into the merge, I was like, I really wish I had that idol right now.
Fair. Very fair.
So it wasn't that I was upset. Like, I definitely wanted him to be in the game. I also just wanted that idol to be in the game.
So end of night 2, could you rank the members of your tribe in order of importance to your game?
Yeah. Probably Todd, then Brent. Then there were a few people in the middle where I wasn't really sure who was going to actually end up playing with me. And that would have been like Adam, Skylar, Carly. And then Corey, at that point, I didn't feel like he was important to my game, because I didn't feel like he had a lot of other connections. So I was hoping that we would be able to play together, but I also wasn't, like, I was a little bit scared about Skylar and Adam, just because I knew they had other connections. They were obviously very social. They were playing the game. Corey, it was like a little unclear to me. So it wasn't that I didn't feel like he could be helpful to me. It was just, I didn't feel like he was critical to my game at that moment.
Are you already kind of formulating, like, we won the first community challenge, but who would my ideal first vote be? Do you have a name that?
Always thinking about votes.
Yeah.
I think I'm usually not really one to drive early votes. I just want to make sure that I perform well enough in challenges that I don't go home, and that no one who's super critical to my game goes home. So as long as it wasn't me or Todd at that point, which I don't think we were at risk that early in the game, I wasn't too concerned.
Gotcha. Brent would like to note that had he made the merge with you, he would use it for your alliance.
Aw, I appreciate that. That was another thing that I was very unsure about when he took that idol, because we had never voted together. I was like, Brent just took this idol. I have no idea if he would even play that idol for me, or if that is even actually an idol that we would share. It was just too early to tell, but that's good to hear.
Well, thankfully, you're not going to go to any tribal councils. So day 3 comes. Unless, is there anything else you want to talk about? Night 2, morning, day 3. Day 3 comes. you have the blindfold challenge, right? And your tribe wins that challenge. You have the gross food eating challenge. What did you end up eating for that challenge?
I went first. I ate the greens, which was great.
Was it just
Everyone
a salad?
was like, it was like collard greens.
Oh, that's easy.
Oh yeah, it was super easy. Everyone was like looking around, like who's gonna go first, and I was like, no one's gonna go first. I'm gonna go first. This is obviously gonna be the easiest one. Like I'm not gonna wait till the end when I have to eat something gross. But it turned out no one had to eat anything that gross. I mean, the onion was obviously extremely difficult to eat, but it wasn't like, you know, they were making you eat like a tarantula or anything like that.
Because you all didn't have a gross food challenge your season, right?
No, I did one in survival challenge, but I didn't do one in Reelfoot.
And survival challenge always picks questionably nasty stuff for people to eat. So I'm glad.
Oh yeah, the survival challenge food was definitely more nasty than the real.
I feel like every time I go on their website, there's a new picture of me eating kimchi. I'm like, great.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a pretty tame gross food eating competition, in my opinion.
And so after winning the first 3 challenges, you see, let's actually have to talk about Bash is the first one voted out.
Oh yeah, shocking. No, I was legitimately shocked. I did not think he was going to go that early. I think, yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly why they voted him out that early. I don't know how much Sharif had to do with that and how much people did not want to play with Bash. But I think everyone in a returnee season is always a little bit concerned that they're going to get voted out, like based on their past performance. And Bash made it to final tribal. And we had actually talked briefly before the game started about how we both made it very, very deep into our season and how we would potentially be early votes just because of that. So.
And then Clark and Nate go home as well.
Yes.
And so, you know, we already kind of talked about it. You've won 3 challenges. There's 18 players left. Are you starting to become worried about a swap? Worried because you're the tribe's only tribe that hasn't lost anyone yet? Is that something that's coming to mind?
Oh yeah, I mean, we knew swaps were going to happen. And Josh drawing a safe and sending Nate home was also very shocking. Yeah, always worried about swaps, especially being swapped when you haven't voted as a tribe.
Now, because in the previous day, May had come over to your tribe and said, hey, the blue tribe really wants to work with you. Get out red. She kind of helps Skylar along in the challenge. Was there any like trying to cross tribe alliances you want to form? Or just like, we're just going to see where this takes us?
I think it was a little too early in the game for me to want to do that. And I personally did not want to work with blue tribe. Lot of big personalities, a lot of folks who play really different games than the style of game that I play. And so I knew I was not going to.
You weren't going to be Amber Reynolds' BFF?
Probably not. I don't know what either of them said about me in their interviews, but I don't think we were.
I haven't done it yet, so we'll have to see.
Yeah. No, I was very concerned that I would not last very long in a yellow-blue merger. So,
well, is there anything else you want to say about your time in the old tribe before the swap?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. And in terms of first vote outs, you're just, as long as it wasn't you, you would be pretty flexible.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have wanted Todd to go. That's probably the only person I would have really fought for at that point.
So you arrive at the next challenge, and it's a surprise swap and then a challenge. And you swap to the blue tribe. And so you're going to be with Austin, Carlos, Tony, Sharif, Skylar, Frank, Corey, and May. So you're going from tribe of 7 to tribe of 9.
I was not happy about this swap at all.
What? How come?
Well, I mean, I was obviously happy to see Sharif, but I was really unhappy with the swap from yellow because number one, I wasn't with Todd, and I felt like neither me or Skylar had that great of a connection with Corey, and I felt like, I didn't feel super comfortable that the 3 of us were going to stick together. And that is always what I want in a swap, is to be swapped with at least 1, potentially 2 people who I can be sure we're going to stick together. Like seeing May and Skylar end up on the same tribe now I know I'm not Skylar's number one.
Mm-hmm.
And I know she knows May really well. I know she knows Frank really well. So I was not happy with that swap.
And so was there any discussion with you, Corey, and Skylar together saying, hey, it's us three, we need to stick together, Yellow's strong, or there was none of that?
Yes, we had that conversation, but that was not a conversation that I believed. And it wasn't really a conversation that I felt ultimately was going to fit with my strategy, because I did know that, Skylar wanted to play with some of the folks on blue, and I was more inclined to play with some of the folks on red. Mm-hmm. And I had no idea where Corey's head was at that point. So I didn't think that was going to work well for us.
Were you worried about there being a get the yellow out mentality with red and blue targeting you?
A little bit, but I think it was still early enough in the game that I felt like people were still, thinking it's really important to win challenges, still thinking a little bit with that earlier mentality. So I wasn't too concerned about it yet.
It seems that swapping with Sharif ends up being a huge boon for your game, because he kind of takes on a very pivotal leadership role of the tribe where nothing can happen without his say, and he has your back.
That's how he always is. Yeah, that's how he plays. He's very personable. He's very logical. He has a lot of conversations, and when he says something to you, you tend to believe it. He appears to be, a very honest person. And I think he knows when, what the right thing to say in a lot of situations is. He does a lot of damage control, and he does a lot of damage control for me all the time. Both in our previous season and the end of the season, he always does damage control. He's always the one talking to the person that everyone knows you're going to vote out. Who everyone's trying not to talk to because they don't know what to say. No, he's really good at that. And he had a strong relationship with Carlos and Tony. And so I ended up folding into that alliance a bit, which was great for me, because I didn't feel like Skylar, Corey, and myself were going to be driving votes. And I personally don't love to drive votes myself. And I just didn't feel like any of the three of us were going to be vote drivers. And you need to find a vote driver.
So after the swap, you have an immediate immunity challenge that's kind of a stacking blocks while holding ropes. And this does not go well for your tribe.
Oh, no, it does not. Which was actually kind of surprising. Because a lot of us had done that. I had done that challenge before. And we won it in my season. But yeah, it didn't go well. We needed to vote. But it became pretty clear pretty early that a lot of people were concerned about Skylar and May's relationship, and that was probably going to be the vote. I think that came together pretty early. So
Frank mentioned me as soon as they swap, he's going to different people, throwing May's name out. Did he come to you at all?
He may have. There were a lot of people throwing out May's name. I think Frank was one of them. But yeah, I think the first swap vote is always the first person to throw a name out. Everyone's yeah, that's great. I just don't want it to be me. So yeah.
The added bonus of being on the blue tribe is you're put in a brand new campsite too.
Yeah. Where were we? No, we weren't at blue camp.
So they didn't bring people back to original blue camp. They brought everyone to a different campsite, and so you have to kind of start fresh from this tribe.
Oh yeah, that was fun. Learned how to make moss beds from Frank. He was building everything everywhere. So yeah, it's always fun to get to camp with new folks. So.
I had to ask. So one thing Frank told me was that you were kind of the fire tender that first night. And his goal was
set me on fire.
Yes. Now, he not only did he try to set fire, his goal was to sabotage the fire by burning all the woods early on in the night, so there'd be no wood left for people to burn later in the night.
He did burn a lot of wood. And while doing that, he almost set me on fire.
But you survived.
I did survive. Luckily.
So you were asleep and your jacket was caught on fire, or what's the story?
Yeah, so we were all kind of sleeping around the fire, and we also had some sticks out around the fire, which was probably not a good idea in hindsight. But also, no one but Frank was burning fires that big in the middle of the night. That was unnecessarily large fire. So anyway, some sparks flew out of the fire and caught the sticks that were laying outside the fire on my side on fire. And that caught my raincoat, which I was using for a blanket, on fire. So yeah, Frank almost caught me on fire. That's fine.
It's an orthodox method to get people out of the game, I suppose.
Yeah, that would have been not a great way to
go. So it seems like your tribe pretty early on kind of coalesces around, we're going to vote out May. Talk to me about some other people in tribe you're meeting for the first time. You're meeting Austin, for instance.
Yep. Met Austin. Actually didn't talk to Austin all that much early on. I was really focused on like solidifying my relationship again with Sharif, and then also talking to Carlos, because I could tell that Carlos was a pretty strategic player, but also like a little bit on the, like, I just had a little bit of a harder time reading him. So I think I wanted to spend some time talking to him, and then spend some time talking to Frank as well. And then kind of just trying to figure out what Skylar and Corey's thoughts were and how we're gonna move through the game. So yeah, I actually didn't end up talking to Austin that much at this point in the game.
What about Tony?
Yeah, I did talk to Tony. I thought I talked to Tony. He does not think that I talked to him. So I don't know. Difference of opinion. It was very clear, in my opinion, between the three of them that Tony was not the decision maker. So maybe I did like subconsciously spend a little less time than I should have talking to Tony. Yeah, so maybe that was on me. But yeah, I felt like I talked to Tony.
So it sounds like your initial efforts in this tribe were reconnecting with Sharif, kind of seeing where Skylar and Corey were at, and then focusing on Carlos.
Yeah, really focused on Carlos. It also seemed at that point like people were a little bit interested in playing with Frank, Sharif, and Carlos and Tony. And so I wanted to just kind of talk a little bit to Frank to see if I could get a little bit of a sense of what his longer term plan was in the game. But I think I have a really hard time telling if Frank is telling me the truth or not. So I was very concerned about that. So I was trying to spend some time talking to him so I could see if I could figure out, you know, if he was telling me the truth or not.
So day 4 comes, you go to tribal council. It's a 6-2 vote for May. I think Austin and Frank both cast votes for Skylar just in case. May plays her shot in the dark. Doesn't work. Anything notable about this vote out?
Nope. I think I was happy with that vote. I think at that point I had also kind of decided that I was willing to let Skylar or Corey get voted out if that is what it came to. I think I was pretty comfortable with Sharif and Carlos at that point.
Yeah, and so your next challenge, it's like kind of a multi-stage ball balancing challenge that ends with like a puzzle or something like that. And it doesn't go well for y'all.
Multi-stage.
I could be wrong with my notes.
No, I'm sure you're right.
Because
my memory is not that good. We lost a couple challenges on this tribe. But again, I think I was fairly comfortable at this point with the majority and who was kind of on the fringes. So
you mentioned with like you kind of come to terms like I can let go of Skylar and I can let go of Corey, that it's no harm no foul for me. How does the vote end up on Corey over Skylar for the next tribal council?
I think there were a lot of people who didn't really know where Corey stood. And I think that's probably how that ended up happening. I think Skylar had deeper connections. I think that's what it came down to. She was very close to a lot of people in the game, really social. So I think there were people who were refusing to write her name down. And I don't think there were a lot of people who were refusing to write down Corey's name.
Anything else notable strategy-wise for you this round?
Don't think so. I think this was pretty standard vote.
Yeah, Corey goes home in a 5-1-1 vote. Austin votes for Frank. Did you know that Austin was going to do that? or was that a concern at all?
Yes, we knew that. Yeah.
And Frank casts his second vote for Skylar. And then you have your next immunity challenge. This is going to be, I believe, the table maze, which also results in a loss. So at this point, you've made up for your 3 initial wins in the yellow tribe to 3 straight tribal councils with this new blue tribe. How are you feeling?
Pretty good at this point. Still feel like I'm solidly in the majority, but obviously there's only so many votes you want to make on a tribe before things get dicey. So it was getting a little close at this point. I was not, really wanted to win some challenges.
And so this next round, Skylar is targeted. Was that a vote you were just fine with? Were you wishing the vote was on someone else?
I was okay with Skylar. I was okay with Skylar at that point. I think that was okay. Can you hang on 1 second? My work phone is ringing.
Go for it.
Right, give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
And now I can fill the silence with saying that Josh has thankfully reminded me that the previous challenge I forgot was boards on rope with pool ball, then an octagon puzzle. And Austin was on the octagon puzzle for his tribe. I believe Josh is on the octagon puzzle for his tribe and did a great job heckling Austin as well in this challenge. So thank you, Josh. I guess other things I can talk about this intermission. Again, Survival Challenge 2023 is currently airing. If you aren't watching, it's fun to drop in and see if there's anyone you know playing or just the wonderful challenges they have going on. Vote outs should begin tomorrow. I imagine there may be another swap tonight. I don't know. They're in 4 tribes of 6. I don't think I've ever seen them start a season with vote outs in 4 tribes of 6, but there could be a first to anything. Survivor British Columbia just wrapped up its All-Star season. So All-Star seasons are, well, I guess it's kind of the summer for All-Star seasons because here we are talking about Reelfoot. What other games are coming up? There's probably a lot of games coming up, and I just don't know them off the top of my head because I am a horrible, horrible human being who can't follow all the games in the summer. I don't know. For those of you tuning in, what can I ramble about? And will I ever edit this out of the final podcast, which is maybe unlikely because that requires effort. Good. I was about to talk about my dissertation.
Sorry.
No one wants that.
Sorry about that. My job is super fun.
So talk about the Skylar vote. Like, were you hearing Frank's name at all? Was that a potential target this round too?
So Frank had said, so we're always worried about shot in the dark, right? So we always have to put a vote on someone else. And I think Frank had said, you can put a vote on me, because he was like really trying to make sure that we knew that he was with us. So I think he said, you can put a vote on me. And I can't remember who did it. Someone did it. But I don't think like Sharif, myself, Carlos, none of us were going to get a vote. So it was like, are we putting a vote on Austin? Are we putting a vote on Tony? Or are we putting a vote on Frank? And Frank had offered, I think. And I think everyone was still a little bit not sure if Frank was with us. So, yeah.
So Skylar plays are shot in the dark, which, again, you've seen like 3 shot in the dark plays in a row now, so there's no surprise. But the more surprising thing is Skylar actually is successfully safe.
That was shocking.
And so you were pretty sure Frank was going home because like you knew that there was at least one vote going on him.
I knew there was 1 vote going on Frank. Yeah.
Okay. So the outcome with Frank going home wasn't a surprise. Maybe more of a surprise was the players' reactions at the next tribal council. At the next immunity
everyone
challenge.
was so surprised that Frank went home, and obviously there were people who were very upset. It was wild to see people's reaction. I would never have reacted that way in a game.
Did you have any reconciliation you did with Skylar after Skylar wasn't voted out?
No, I mean, obviously I think I hugged her after the vote, said I was really excited for her, but I'm like it seemed like we were still fine. But again, like I had already kind of decided that she wasn't someone that I was talking core strategy with. So I wasn't upset that she was still there. Like I said, I really enjoyed getting to know her and playing with her. So I wasn't upset about it. She didn't seem like super upset with me. So we both knew that we weren't in positions to drive votes on this merge tribe or on this swap tribe. So I think it was kind of, she understood the situation.
Yeah, something else I forgot. So the next challenge is one that you are very familiar with. This is kind of the running to stations, doing something, and then doing basketball at the very end. This is I believe you did this challenge your past season.
We did a version of this challenge in our season. It was a little bit different. But yeah, this was a good challenge. Running, we didn't have to do the trivia, so it was not like I was gonna run really far and then have to answer a trivia question. I was just gonna use random chance to see whether I had to run that far again. We crushed this challenge as a tribe, which was great. I'm not sure if the other tribe threw it on clear.
I don't know. I don't think. Have I talked to anyone in the other tribe? No. I've talked to Todd, but I don't remember him saying anything about throwing it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Todd would ever throw a challenge. I'm assuming that we're of the same opinion about that being a terrible idea. But yeah, they were very far behind, like shockingly far. And I can't remember who started talking about them potentially throwing it. But I think that, it was in the air that they could have potentially thrown it.
So you kind of end day 4 on a high note, not going back to tribal council. How are you feeling the end of this day?
Really happy that we didn't go back to tribal council. Also very interested to see how the next votes would go. So the other tribe had not voted at all at this point, right? Yeah. So I really wanted to see what was going to happen in that vote on the other tribe. I think we were all very excited to see it.
Was there anyone you were hoping would go home? Or expecting?
I don't think there was anyone I was particularly hoping to go home. It just seemed like it was a little bit of a dramatic situation over there. So we really wanted to see how it was going to shake out.
So if your tribe had gone to the tribal council, do you know who the votes would have been on or who you've been pushing for?
I mean, I don't know why we wouldn't have just gone back and voted Skylar.
Yeah, that's fair.
Other than that, we would have had one less number. I think. Yeah, I don't know why we wouldn't have gone back and voted Skylar.
Okay. Well, anything you know happened night 4, morning 5?
Don't think so. That was a reward challenge also, right?
I think you got some food.
I think we got some food. I needed food. Yeah, I was very lucky in my first season of Reelfoot. I won almost every food reward there was, and that did not happen for me this season early in the game. So it was about time for me to get some food, I think.
So in day 5, you're at 14. How much longer do you expect the pre-merge to last? Are you just like one more vote out then merge, or they're going to make us ride it out for a while?
I think we were predicting another swap.
Okay. I
think we were predicting another swap.
Because your season, you merged at what, 10?
Yes, 10 or 11, yeah.
So instead, you find out that you are going to have to earn the merge, where you have to choose one of 3 challenges, either skill, memory, or I think endurance, to win your way into the merge. And what do you end up choosing?
I chose the bag toss, which was a terrible choice on my part. I knew I wasn't going to pick the memory, but I really should have picked endurance. That was very dumb.
And so this challenge does not go well for you.
No. No. Also, I think I picked this. I think the people who picked the beanbags after me, I was like, oh my God, now I'm done. Yeah, I think this was the one where Josh threw all of his bags together and they landed on the table together.
And then Austin quickly got it after that.
Yeah, so I think Josh and Austin both ended up there after me, maybe, which was like the kind of the curse of picking first is you don't know who you're gonna go up against. Yeah, that was not good for me. And then none of the people I wanted to be in what we called Murgatory with me were there. So then I was like, I don't know who the vote's going to be. That was terrible. That was terrible.
So Murgatory ends up being Brent, Taylor, Adam, Reynolds, Amber, Carlos, and you. And so talk to me about how Murgatory was.
It was terrible. This was the worst part of the game. Yeah, so it's raining, number one. We get to the camp and they, we read that note that says there's an idol hidden somewhere here. Go. And then we have like 30 minutes to look for an idol and then we're going to go vote. There's no one there that I trust except for Brent.
You have Brent and Carlos there.
Oh yeah, Carlos
and Adam from your original tribe.
Yeah, but I didn't trust Adam yet because we never voted together, and he's super social. So I really, and we hadn't seen each other since forever. Yeah, I was not in a good place during Murgatory, and this was terrible. Yeah, so I really wanted to play with Taylor. Like I was very excited to see her on day one. She's another like really strong challenge competitor. Really excellent player. And I was like, oh, this is so great. I love playing with players like her. I'm so excited to play together. So when I was talking to her, I was like, oh, this is great. We can vote together. Like, so yeah, she immediately stabbed me in the back right there. And that was terrible.
Reynolds says that you and Taylor should have taken over the game after the bathroom conversations.
Yeah, we did have a good bathroom conversation. We had a very good bathroom conversation while we were waiting to find out who else was going to be stuck in Murgatory with us. But all of the people who the three of us were talking about potentially being votes were not there. So when we found out who was there, I was like, this is not good.
So you said Taylor stabbed you in the back this round. What happened? Or talk to me about the evolution of the strategy of this round and how much the idol was playing into what you want to do.
What happened here? So I think we ended up deciding. So I had talked to Adam, I talked to Brent, I talked to Carlos, and I talked to Taylor, and it seemed very clear to me at that point that it was going to be Amber or Reynolds. However, that is not what ended up happening because Taylor did not vote with us. She flipped her vote. And then she tried to tell me she got confused. I was like, Taylor, you don't get confused. Like, don't try to lie to me and tell you were confused about the numbers. Like, there are some people who get confused about the numbers. Taylor's not one of them.
So what was the vote supposed to be? Was it supposed to be like 3 votes on Amber or Reynolds, 1 vote on the other?
It was supposed to be votes on Amber and votes on Reynolds. And I think Taylor said, like, she didn't want to vote Amber. Like, there were a couple of people in this group of 5 who didn't want to write one name or the other, Reynolds or Amber. And I made a critical strategy error here, which was, I think the 3 votes on Reynolds were supposed to be like me, Taylor, and I can't remember who the 3rd vote on Reynolds was supposed to be, but you should always make the majority vote the 3 people you trust the most, not 2 people you trust and 1 person you've never voted with before. So if we had changed that makeup of the 5, I think that wouldn't have been a risk, but that was not smart. I really trusted Taylor at that moment for no good reason, and that was bad.
Do you know who voted for Brent? Amber, Reynolds, and who else?
Reynolds and Taylor.
Okay, so Taylor completely jumped off Amber Reynolds' plan and just went against and just wrote down.
I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Yeah,
Okay.
I can't remember, but I think that's what happened. Yeah,
This is one of the votes I need to figure out. Okay,
yeah,
so
I'm pretty sure
Brent going home was a huge surprise for you.
Oh yeah, I did not think that was happening, and I
Mhm.
was not happy about it. Obviously, he had played my idol, then he got voted out, so that was not easy.
So you survived this vote, and you get to now go to the actual merge.
Yes, that's good.
Yeah, so
Yes.
13 people, and you get a merge celebration sort of feast.
Sort of, yeah. Again, not enough food.
Not Applebee's?
Not Applebee's, but whatever. Beggars can't be choosers. But something did happen at the merge feast, which was interesting. And that was that I was opening a box of bread, and I opened it, and I think that there was a clue like either under the first piece of bread or in the box. And I was opening the box for Sharif. So I opened the box, saw the clue, and then just handed him the box. Like, get this away from me. And so he had a clue immediately after the merge feast, which was fine. He was one of the people that I trusted the most. So, but I think Taylor did see him get it, and that I think caused some drama pretty immediately thereafter. But
did he share the clue with you?
Yes, he shared the clue with me. Yeah, he shared the clue with me, but I can't remember who found that idol. I think it was Reynolds or Amber.
They found a lot of idols because I think you found your idol. Was that the final 10 or final 11 that you found your idol?
I can't remember. Okay. It was a few votes from now because it was one of the frantic idol searches where an idol had been played, and we knew there was another one there. So
okay, yes, okay. So it was after the Adam vote, then you searched and found the idol.
Yes, correct. After the Adam vote.
So you mentioned before, like you don't know where you stand with the yellow players because you never had a vote with them. I mean, looking at this group of 13, like, did you have an ideal merge vote in mind?
Well, yeah. So Taylor leaves the game, which is actually turned out to be very good for me. Although that's probably not. I think she was an option for a merge vote. I think Josh was also an option for a merge vote, and both of those things were fine with me. I think Josh said something to me in that time right after merge that made me really not trust him, and he was like, I want to move away from blue and play with yellow. But then he said, blue and red are going to gang up on yellow. And I was already so close with Sharif and Carlos at that point that I was like, that's not happening. Like, I don't believe you. So I think Skylar is the one who actually started throwing out Josh's name the hardest. And I think Austin was also like in the conversation a little bit.
Well, so you have your first immunity challenge. This is where you get to stack the blocks up and kind of like balance endurance. And Todd and Josh both win that. And then when Taylor has the kind of a life event happen, needs to leave the game, Taylor says, hey, I don't want to exit the game or quit. I'd like to be voted out. So you have that Birdseed Tribal Council that night instead, where I had to imagine the strategy is, well, Taylor says he's going home. We're going to write down Taylor's name, but Skylar does receive a vote in this Tribal Council.
Oh my God, yes. And she ends up thinking it's from Josh. I don't know who wrote Skylar's name down in this Tribal Council. Did. I can't remember. Carlos, yeah. I don't know if Carlos ended up telling Skylar that Josh wrote her name down. I don't know if that's how that ended up happening. Oh, okay. Yeah. But in the game, people started giving Skylar this idea that Josh had written her name down. And so that's how the Josh vote ends up happening, I think, partially.
So when Taylor goes home, your original blue tribe from Fowler's Point is 1/3 of the merged tribe. You, Sharif, Carly, and Josh. Like, was there any temptation to bring the four together, say, hey, we could run this back for our season?
No. No, that was never happening. Yeah, why wasn't that happening? I don't know. There are a lot of reasons why that wasn't happening. That was never going to happen.
Well, so anything else of note happened the end of night 5 with your merge tribe?
No, I think this was when I started trying to figure out like who were the people who I was going to fight to make sure they didn't get voted out. And that's kind of was my post-merge strategy. I knew that there was this subset of quote unquote like traditional threats that people were looking to vote out. I knew my name was in there. So I wanted to try to establish this core group of people that were key to my game that I didn't want to see go, and then kind of try to figure out what was happening, with everyone else to try to make sure that I was in a good position.
So who are you looking at as kind of your people at this point?
Todd, Sharif, Carlos, at this point, Tony. Todd, Sharif, Carlos, Tony, Adam. Those were kind of probably the 5 people I was talking the most strategy with. And then Carly was still part of our alliance at that point. But a little bit like just different style of game. And Skylar still in the conversation at that point as well.
Anything else you want to say about the end of that first night, or end of that first night at the merge tribe?
We went back to, was that when we went back to merge camp? That's when we went back to the camp that the yellow tribe was in my season. Yeah. A lot of snakes, a lot of spiders, very big spiders. Yeah, that camp was rough. That was not as nice of a camp as it was in my first season. That first night was, I think we saw the biggest spider most of us had ever seen. It was terrifying. Tony killed it, I think. It was very nice of him.
So the next morning, you have your second mini challenge. This is the counting objects in a container. And how does this challenge go for you?
I sat out of that challenge.
Oh, for food.
Correct. So I was one of the last people to say that they would sit out. So there was a subset of people who immediately said they would sit out. And I think a lot of people thought this was like a memory challenge. And so there were some people like Skylar, Carly, a couple of other people who were like, we're not going to sit out. This is our challenge. And so we were right on the cusp of having enough people to sit out. And Josh and I were standing next to each other. And I think at this point, Skylar had already sort of started trying to rally votes for Josh. So I'm kind of looking at Josh like, are you going to sit out? Because if he sits out, I'll sit out. So that was kind of where my head was at. I was like, if Josh sits out, I'll sit out. If he doesn't agree to sit out, then I'm going to have a really hard time agreeing to sit out at this point. But he did. So I sat out and it was fine.
Yeah. What did you end up eating?
That was when we got the casserole, I think. That was a really big food reward. We got like a huge casserole. That was amazing. Yeah, we ate that pretty fast though.
So Austin and Skylar end up winning this challenge. And the vote, it seems like Josh's name is already getting bandied around. Was this a pretty straightforward strategy session for everyone coming together and voting out Josh?
Yes. I can't remember who else got votes in that tribal council.
So Josh votes for Reynolds and Austin votes for Amber, because it seems like there's already this like contingent of people who want Amber and Reynolds gone.
This is when we just start always throwing votes on Reynolds and Amber. Yeah.
So talk me about Amber's and Reynolds, because you're meeting them in the merge the first time. What is interacting with them like for you?
Yeah, I actually, when I talked to Reynolds and Taylor during our bathroom chat, I was actually really excited to get to talk to Reynolds more, and actually really enjoyed my conversations with Amber as well. I think they were pretty clearly on the bottom pretty early, and so they started playing a very chaotic game, which I think is fair considering their position, but I cannot play that type of game. So I was like, I'm not going near those people. No, I did talk to them, but didn't really ever talk that much game with them until a few votes on, when I was actually thinking about like between the two of them, who did I feel like would be more effective for my game, and like which one do I want to go first. But yeah, I did enjoy talking to them just on a personal level.
So why leave Austin out of the vote for Josh?
Yeah, people had this perception that Josh and Austin were super close. And I really don't feel like even at this point I had talked to Austin that much. It wasn't that I didn't talk to Austin that much until I think like 1 or 2 votes from now, when I started realizing that I needed Austin in my core group to make it through the next portion of the game. And he started winning challenges, so then people started perceiving him as a challenge threat, which kind of changed, I think, his position in the game as well. But yeah, people were very concerned that he was super close to Josh. I think the interesting thing about that was that even Skylar did not tell him, which was surprising to me.
Yeah. So, I mean, given how this merge ends up evolving with this very much head-to-head between two alliances, was voting out Josh here the right move for your game?
Yeah, I think Josh is a very smart player, and so the flip ends up happening. Was it the next? It was
next round's the Adam vote.
The next round's the Adam vote. Yeah. Okay. So that was going to happen anyway. Yeah, I think Josh is one that he thinks very deep into the game, and so he has the ability to kind of enlighten other people on what potential strategies are. And so I was always very concerned about that. And we just, like I said, we never got to have a strategy conversation. So I just wasn't sure how much he actually wanted to play with me or how much he would want me out.
Well, you are able to write down Josh's name the second time as a merge boot as a result.
Yes. Yes, but it wasn't me this time.
It wasn't only your idea. So he goes home in a 10-1-1 vote. Your next mini challenge, this is the slingshot challenge. That takes a big, because it's hard.
Oh my god, yeah. I'm terrible at slingshot, apparently. But I'm not the only one. Apparently Sharif is secretly a slingshot master. Yeah, this is probably the worst strategic vote of my game. Probably this one right here.
So talk to me about the strategy then. You know, how does it end up being this like head-to-head battle between these two groups?
Yeah, so we were originally going to vote Reynolds or Amber on this vote. But then we started thinking that maybe that was too easy. And maybe we didn't want to vote Reynolds or Amber. And that's when everything started breaking down, because then we started trying to figure out who else we were going to vote. And then it started becoming very apparent, just because of like our physical location and the amount of time we had during this vote, like who was talking about who. And
gotcha. So after the challenge, this is when you're just kind of behind the house for your strategizing,
correct,
right?
Correct. So we didn't go back to camp. And so this was the vote where we tried to vote Skylar, right?
Yes, because Tony still votes for Skylar and no one else does.
Yep. Yeah, so Skylar and Carly were trying to get me to flip with them and vote. I can't remember who they wanted to vote. Todd or they said Todd's name to me a lot of times, and I was just like, guys, I'm never gonna vote Todd. Like, this doesn't make sense. I think I had a conversation with Skylar and Carly during this time where it was just like so clear that our games were not aligned, even though the three of us were in the same conversation, that it was it was very frustrating, because it just sucked that our games didn't align. But yeah, this was not good. We should have voted Reynolds or Amber on this vote, definitely.
So was the strategic mistake like entertaining other names and letting things like letting Skylar be a name of the potential vote, or like what went wrong here for you think?
I think the strategic. So sometimes I think in large alliance situations like this, maybe you just get a little bit like, we were like, oh, we can get Reynolds or Amber next vote. It's not a big deal. We can get Reynolds.
That's what people said about Bash.
Yeah, and yes, exactly. But I had actually also had this conversation with Amber where I was just like, I don't understand why some of these other people are not coming to you guys to like flip. Like I wasn't going to do it because it didn't make sense for my game. Like I wasn't going to flip on Todd and Sharif and Carlos and I think at this point started talking to, well, Austin wasn't on that flip. So yeah, I had people around me that I was confident in, and so it didn't make sense. I didn't think I was at the bottom of my alliance. It didn't make sense for me to flip. But I think I said to Amber at some point, like, I don't understand why, these 3 people aren't coming to you guys to flip this game. And that's exactly what happened at that moment. So that was poor alliance management on our part.
Yeah, because so this round, Austin, Carly, and Skylar end up working with Amber Reynolds, and
Correct.
you have this 5-5-1 where Tony votes for Skylar and everyone else votes for Adam Reynolds. And Reynolds, I don't know if it was information leakage or just great intuition, he plays his idol for himself.
Information leakage. I think this was Carlos. I think this was information leakage by Carlos.
So at what point in the game, do you realize that Carlos has been leaking information?
I saw Carlos talking to Amber and Reynolds a lot.
And Reynolds confirms, thank you, Carlos.
Yes, correct. This was Carlos information leakage for sure. Yeah, I saw Carlos talking to Amber and Reynolds. I don't think I realized quite how solid they were. Because I think there's a lot of people who want to try to, keep people in their orbit in case something happens during the game, right? So he was definitely talking to them more than I was, but I don't think I realized the depth of that relationship until probably another vote or 2 later.
So Adam goes out. Adam ends up, you were a little skeptical about Adam. He ends up being a person who was very much part of your alliance at that point.
Yes, he was. I think those types of really social people just make me nervous because I'm not a really social person. And so I can't even keep up with all the conversations that they're having. And I just am always very concerned that they're going to want to play with other very social people. And I can't. There's only so many relationships I can manage. And that's something I know about myself. So I'm not one to try to talk to everyone like Adam was doing.
So quick question for Parker. Tony's vote for Skylar, that was a mistake because he wasn't updated on a last-minute plan change?
Why did Tony vote for Skylar? I don't know why Tony voted for Skylar in that vote.
Okay.
Oh, I think so there was some talk happening in tribal council. Yeah. Okay. So I remember somebody motioned something to someone at tribal council, and then I think it was actually Sharif who changed the vote to Reynolds instead of Skylar. Because I think we felt like maybe they knew something, and then we ended up changing the vote at the last minute. It was something really weird happening during tribal council.
So I think you go straight to your next challenge, right? And this is a beanbag toss challenge that Carly and Reynolds win.
Yeah.
Beanbag tossing is not your favorite thing?
No, it's not. I'm not good at it. I have even play in a cornhole league, and I'm just not good at that sport. It's not my thing.
And so my impression is after this challenge, people just take off running to go try to go idol hunting.
Yes, this was the start of the 3 votes of insane idol hunting. Yeah, this was where I can't remember who was chasing who. It was ridiculous. Because it was so clear where everyone stood at this point, and the last vote had been so crazy. People were it was madness.
And so I believe this is when you find your idol then.
Yes, I think so. Because the next vote I used my idol, right?
Yep. And so where did you find it? Was anyone there? Did you tell anyone?
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone was everywhere. Someone saw me find it. I told a bunch of people, everyone knew who had it, I think, at this point. Yeah, I found it in in a tree on the kind of side of camp near the trail, but like in the back corner.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, also like the idols were super large this season, like really long necklaces. So like I did not have anywhere to hide this idol. Like they shouldn't make idols that big. Like I wasn't wearing a shirt, I had shorts on. Like I was like, I don't know, like there's nowhere I can put this. Like I can't put it in my pants. It's like huge, you know? So yeah, that was annoying. But note for future, don't make the idol so bulky.
So
yeah.
You have an idol. It seems like there's this 5-5 split going on, you know. How certain were you that, like, you know, was rocks a discussion? Were you willing to go to rocks?
Yes, we talked about rocks a lot. This was when Tony had his like emotional like moment at camp where he just like totally broke down and was like kind of having a bit of a moment. So he also, this was the point at which he kind of like refused to talk to anyone but Austin and Sharif. So this was a tough one. This was really hard because I had no idea what Tony was thinking. He started crying. And then we all had this impression like, oh my God, he's going to flip on us. Like he's just really upset because he doesn't want to tell us. Yeah, so that was not good. So then on the way to tribal, we're trying to figure out who to play the idol for. And I had a couple of thoughts. Like one was I could play it for myself, right? And then I would just make sure that I was not going home. But like I was not gonna survive in that other that other alliance took one of us out. Like I wasn't gonna make it. They were gonna vote me out immediately. So then I was like, all right, well, I know I will go to rocks. I'm pretty sure Todd will go to rocks. I'm pretty sure Sharif will go to rocks. And I at that point I thought Carlos would go to rocks, even though thinking back on it now, I don't know if he would have at that point.
Yep.
But Tony was always like, I'm not going to rocks. Like he was very upset. He was like, I don't want to go to rocks. Like I was really concerned that if it came to rocks, Tony was going to flip. So I was like, what if I play the idol on Tony? And then no matter what happens, like I'm confident that the four of us will go to rocks and Tony will be safe. So I can stand up there and say, I trust everybody, play it on Tony, regardless of who people think they're actually voting for. And then the worst thing that happens is rocks, as long as everyone splits 5-5. But Tony ended up telling Sharif who they were going to vote for. So he said that they were going to vote for Todd. And I'm walking to tribal council. And I'm like, am I really about to believe Tony right now? Because I do not believe Tony. Like, I don't know what's going on with him. He hasn't personally talked to me. But then he comes up to me on the way to tribal council and like gets in my face. And he's like, you better take me to the end for this. And he like is just all of a sudden like goes from really sad to like very aggressive. And I was just like, whoa, this is crazy. I was like, Tony, you know, I can't promise you to get to the end. All I can say is that I'm not going to write your name down, which I did say to him at that point. I was like, I'm not going to write your name down until 4, which comes up again later in the game because I ended up writing his name down before that, which was a decision that I almost didn't make. But yeah, I was not sure at all what I was going to do with that idol when I got up there.
So why vote Skylar?
Why did we vote Skylar this vote? Oh, I think we thought she was the one that they were least likely to go to rocks for.
Gotcha.
It was about who they would not go to rocks for.
And so when you vote, Parker says if anyone has hit a mute idol, now's the chance to play it. You go up and you do have a speech prepared.
Yes. So I knew I wanted to say something because I wanted to just take that moment to make a statement and to kind of solidify the amount of trust I had with those people in case I played my idol wrong and we did have to go to rocks, right? And I wanted to tell them why I wasn't playing it for myself, because really at that point I was not sure if they were actually going to vote Todd. But I knew that I was going to go to rocks with these people as long as they were all equally willing to go to rocks with me. So my only choice was Todd or Tony. Those are my only options. And I did almost play it on Tony. I was very, very close to playing that idol on Tony.
But your intel ends up being correct. You negate 5 votes on Todd, and Skylar goes out with the 5 votes from your side. So it ends up being a huge success.
Yes.
And you
Yes.
mentioned
Just
one of the things
turning
you want to
into
do
another
this season
idol.
was find an idol, and you found
Yes.
one. You played it correctly, and you changed the
Yeah.
tide of the game potentially.
Yeah, that was really exciting for me. My parents were also there for that tribal council, which was great. They didn't want to come because they were afraid they were going to like affect my game by being there, but I really wanted them to see it because I knew it was going to be, you know, ridiculous in some way. So luckily it worked out in my favor.
That's awesome. So was there any follow-up coming back to camp after that tribal council?
No, because we were all hunting for idols again.
This time
basically was this when we agreed that we needed 2 flashlights, or when we yeah, so there was all this concern because I think at this point it was after one of these tribal councils, it was dark, and so people were racing back to camp, but then the person with the flashlight, I think Reynolds or Amber had the flashlight, and so
yeah, that's probably after this next tribal council.
Yeah.
So before we get to the scramble, I don't have the notes on what this next challenge is, but you win this next mini challenge, your first individual win of the season.
Oh, it was the clay pigeons.
Okay, the clay pigeons endurance challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you and Todd
unfinished business.
Yes. Did you compete in this challenge last year?
Yes, I did. And I got second to KC won this challenge. It was the merge challenge, I think. And KC won it, but they didn't split it guys and girls during my season. So he beat me by a few clay pigeons. Like I was not holding that many clay pigeons. So yeah, it was really exciting to win this challenge. It was interesting because Amber was cheering on Carly during this challenge, and I was nearing the end. Like I don't know how much longer I could have done that. And I really didn't know how Carly was doing because she was so far away from me. But Amber kept being like, yeah, Carly, you look great. Like Megan's about to drop those, and I was about to drop them. So I really thought that, I thought Carly might be beyond that. I just had no idea how she was doing because she was so far away from me. So
back at camp afterwards, more idol scramble. Anything of note come to the strategy here, because your side ends up voting for Carly, and those votes get negated.
Yeah, that was annoying. I think
Carly,
this was. I think it was more about like, why did we vote Carly? I think we were trying to figure out who they wouldn't guess that we would vote for, and so I think we were like, we didn't want to vote Amber or Reynolds because we figured that would be obvious, and so I think we ended up trying to pick what we thought was the least likely option. But I think this was another case of information leakage, so it wouldn't have mattered who we voted for anyway.
Yes,
but that was our logic.
Carly plays her shot in the dark. It doesn't work, and then Amber plays her idol for Carly that she finds, negating all votes against her, and then Sharif goes out with 3 votes.
Yes, that was very bad. Having Sharif out of the game was obviously very bad for my game, but also both with the Adam vote and with this vote, I'm not really sure how I made it through either of these 2 votes, honestly.
Well, immunity helps a bit.
This one I had immunity. The Adam one I did not, but yeah, there were a couple of votes where I was like, oh man, I was in more danger than I thought I was. But yeah, having Sharif gone from the game was really tough. Although I do think, like in the back of my mind, I was always really like, I didn't know if I could win at the end with Sharif. But I also didn't know if I would be able to vote him out of the game, or like at what point I would do that. So I'm glad I didn't have to make that decision, because that would be hard.
It does clean things up for you a little bit.
Yes. And I think this is the point where I start building a better relationship with Austin, which was critical for the next phase of the game.
Yeah, because you're ending day 6. Sharif is gone. It looks like a 4-4. You know, where are you at, and where you're like, and what are you thinking? Like, here's what I need to do to get to the end.
Yeah, it's a 4-4 again, which not good. At this point, I'm starting to get a little concerned about Tony, just because I feel like, first of all, the way I'm not a very emotional player, and he just proved himself to be a very emotional player in the prior votes. And so that was pretty concerning to me. And I wasn't really that excited about relying on him for a long game. So then I started kind of looking at who else had similar games to mine. And that's, I think, when I started talking more to Austin, because then it was like, okay, Carlos, Todd, myself. At that point, it was Tony, but I really wanted to start talking to Austin about what he thought his path to the end was, because he was obviously a big threat as well. I figured he'd be starting to worry about getting votes. And so, pitching him on coming to an alliance with other physical threats seemed to make sense.
And Austin's pretty receptive to this pitch.
Yes, he did save me in the next vote, I think. But yeah, he was pretty receptive to it. And I do think, I think in Survivor, it's all about like trying to figure out what makes sense for other people's games and when your games align. And I think at this point, Austin and I were legitimately aligned in how we were going to get to the end and what types of people we wanted to be at the end with. So that worked out well.
So with the Sharif going home and like the singing a third successful idol play in a row, you're probably wondering like how are Amber Reynolds able to know this? Is that something that's really kind of bugging you at this point?
Yeah. Yes, that's bugging me at this point. And I think around these couple votes is when, like, I want Amber and Reynolds out of the game at this point. Like, I don't want to wait. I want them out of the game. They're just causing chaos in every way. And I think this is when Carlos starts, like, you start being able to tell a little bit that Carlos does not want them out of the game, or is like very concerned about which one of them is going in out of the game. And it becomes a little bit more apparent that there's a lot deeper of a relationship there.
Yeah. So the next immunity challenge, this is, let's see, Carlos wins the next immunity challenge. And, going in, like, the vote, is it going to be a 4-4 with you, Carlos, Tony, and Todd voting for Amber Reynolds and the remaining 4 voting for you? Like, where are the numbers at that you're thinking of?
Yep. This is another vote where rocks were discussed at length, and everyone was telling everyone that we were going to go to rocks. I was pretty confident that Austin was going to vote with us at this vote. But there was also some numbers confusion on this vote, which I think almost resulted in me accidentally going home.
Austin says that he was kind of miscalculating, was thinking that if he threw a vote, things would be okay, and then realized at the voting booth, if I throw my vote, Megan goes home. And so last minute realizes that he shouldn't throw his vote away, and he ends up voting for Reynolds, who he'd been working with.
Yeah, he told me something right before tribal council. He was like telling me something about the numbers, and then as I'm sitting in my seat at tribal council, I'm like, wait a second, I don't think those numbers are right. Because people were trying to throw vote. I was like, yeah, that was a crazy vote. I was extremely concerned because I thought it might go to a revote, and I knew it was going to be close, and that was a point when I really had to trust Austin and Tony, at that moment, which was not something I was very excited
Did you know that Carlos was writing your name down?
Did I know that Carlos was writing my name down? I don't think I knew that Carlos was writing my name down. I think I knew that Carlos didn't want to vote for. I think Carlos had said he didn't want to vote for Amber. No, I did not know where Carlos was writing my name down during that vote.
So Did you think it was going to be like a 5-3 vote? Like we flipped Austin. It's me, Austin, Carlos, Tony, Todd, and we're writing down Reynolds?
I think Austin told me originally that he was going to flip on the revote. That he was not going to flip on the original vote. He was going to flip on the revote.
Okay.
But then so I thought we were going to go to a revote, but not in the way that votes ended up going.
Yeah, so it ends up being a 4-4 tie, and Carlos flips and votes for Reynolds in the second vote, causing Reynolds to go home 4-2.
Yeah, that's like backwards of what I think I expected to happen with Austin.
Now, there's a little bit more fireworks from this. Reynolds takes some souvenirs with them out of the game, including the rice, I believe. And
Yes.
Carly goes and exacts, not Carly, Amber goes and exacts her revenge as well.
Yes. She threw the machete in the woods and hit the pot. Is this when she hit the pot? Yeah, there was a lot of insanity happening at this point. And this is when the Tony Amber fight happens, right?
Yeah.
That was crazy. This is too much drama for me. Way too much drama for me. I mean, yeah, at that point I was like, Amber was going in my mind. I was just done. I was done.
Did you learn that Carlos had flipped and tried to vote you out?
I don't think I knew that immediately after this vote. But I mean, Carlos and I had a major disagreement in this next vote, at which point I knew that that I needed to change my whole Carlos strategy.
Well, one highlight of this round is you win your second individual immunity.
Oh yes, this was the building things with your feet challenge. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a really fun challenge. I'd never done that one before. I also think I was extremely lucky during this challenge to be sitting next to Austin, because he was going almost as fast as me. Like, I don't think I would have rushed as much if I had been on the opposite side of him, and he might have ended up beating me.
Okay.
We were very, very close together, and because we could both see each other, we were facing each other's feet. We could see how fast the other one was going. I probably would have been a little more inclined to take my time if I had not seen Austin so close to me.
So, talk to me more about the disagreement you have with Carlos during the strategy of this round.
Oh yeah, so Carlos really did not want Amber to go home. He had an idol, which we knew by this point, and he was very concerned about having to use his idol and getting votes. And so he was trying to get me to vote. Who was he trying to get me to vote at this point? Austin, maybe? I think he was saying that Tony, Carly, and Austin were going to get together. He was very concerned about them, and he wanted to vote one of them. And so he was really lobbying me very hard to change my vote. And I was like, at that point, I was just like, I can't, like, I have to have Amber out, because at that point it was very clear how close he and Amber were. And also I felt like Amber, the way that she was behaving in the game might be getting to that point, the bash point, which is what I call the bash point, which is the point where everyone was going to want to take her to the end just because of the way she had been behaving in the game. And I was like, I just can't let that happen. I don't want it to go even one more vote, because I'm afraid people are not going to want to vote her anymore. They're going to want to start taking her to the end. And so I looked at what was happening here, and I was like, all right, I know Todd will vote with me, because he feels the same way that I do about this situation. So I was like, all right, Todd and I are going to vote Amber no matter what. And so Carlos would be forced to play his idol. And as long as he played it, then Amber was still going to go, which is what I wanted to have happen all along. And I needed Carlos to play that idol anyway, because I didn't want him to have it for any longer.
Did you know that the other three, Tony, Austin, and who else? Carly would be voting for Carlos? Did you know that would happen?
Yeah, I mean, Carlos knew that was going to happen.
So the plan was 3-2 Carlos.
Yeah, and we talked about, like, I mean, Carlos and I talked at length many, many times as he was trying to get, Carlos, Todd, Amber, myself to vote one of them. So then it would have been a 4-3, and he would not have had to use his idol.
Gotcha. And so
I needed him to play that idol.
You forced him to play that idol. I mean, I'm curious why he and Amber didn't try to, like, he plays an idol, they vote together. It's a 2-2 tie on Amber and pick someone else, and maybe they can persuade Austin or Tony to revote. I don't know. Seems unlikely.
Yeah, I think he was still trying to pretend like he was not as close to Amber as he was, because he kept trying to say, I'm worried about these 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worried about these 3 people. But he wasn't saying to me, like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he wanted us to think that he and Amber were a pair,
mm-hmm.
you know? So I don't know. But yeah, that was a pivotal vote in my relationship with Carlos. And that was the moment where I knew that I could not take Carlos to the end.
And so, walking in the final 6, talk me through like your ideal boot order from there.
Yeah. So at this point, I think at this point, I reached the point where I was pretty clear on what I wanted to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I wanted Tony and Carlos both out of the game.
Why Tony?
Well, he was extremely chaotic and emotional by that point.
Mm-hmm.
And he was another person. So at this point, I started trying to take people out of the game that I thought other people wanted to take to the end.
Yep.
And Tony was one of those people, because he had lied to so many people, such an emotional player. People were saying, oh, you never believe what Tony says. And it felt like people were like, oh, yeah, I'd love to sit in the final 3 with Tony.
The bash point.
Yes. So at that point, I was like, all right, instead of trying to, protect the people that are close to me, I need to start voting out people who people want to take to the end more than me. And he was one of those people. So I really wanted him out for that reason. And then Carlos, I felt like Carlos was going to beat me if he was at the end. So I needed Carlos out.
And how comfortable were you sitting next to Carly at the end instead of with both Todd and Austin?
I was comfortable. So I really thought, assuming that Carlos was not at the end, I thought that I could beat any of the remaining people. So I was comfortable sitting at the end with everyone but Carlos at that point.
Gotcha.
And even prior to that point, when Amber went, I would have been comfortable sitting at the end with Amber. But the problem was that I felt like I was, too many people wanted to take her.
So for your final 6 round, you start with everyone's favorite, touchy subjects. Did you win any nominations?
Yes. I think I won Who's Actually Running the Game, which was surprising to me, because at that point, I think I voted. I think I said Austin or Carlos for that. But yeah, Tony got a lot of nominations for a lot of things. But yeah, that's always an interesting one. I think everyone's always kind of dreading that, just, the reading of the names and the votes.
So Tony wins this. He goes to get popsicles with Todd and Carly. How's life back at camp with you, Carlos, and Austin?
Great. That was a good threesome to have back at camp. I think we all bowed out of that opportunity to get popsicles pretty quickly. Like I didn't need to spend any more time with Todd at that point. Like Todd and I had already solidified our relationship. We were going to the end together. It was fine. So it was actually very, very good for Carlos and Austin and I to be able to spend some more time together.
The next immunity challenge, this is kind of the multi-stage challenge where you're running with water in your mouth. You're trying to do breakout to get a key or light fire at the very end.
Yeah, I was really excited about this challenge. Yeah. And I couldn't open that lock at all. Apparently, Parker said there was rust on my key. But yeah, I don't know. I felt so stupid during that challenge. It was so frustrating. But Todd ended up winning it. And I think as we got closer to the end, the great thing about being in an alliance with Todd was either of us winning was, a pretty good thing for both of us. And
Yep.
we won a lot of challenges near the end of the game. So was very happy to see him win.
So let's see. So this ends up being the last round that anyone can play idols. Are you concerned that Tony may have an idol, or do you know where the idol is?
Not concerned that Tony has it.
Okay.
The biggest problem with this vote for me was that I had told Tony that I wouldn't write his name down before 4. So my entire conversation during this scramble was, can I get to the point where Tony is going to go and I do not have to write his name down? I could not get to that point. So I ended up having to write Tony's name down.
So let's talk about the numbers then. Because did you know Carlos was getting 2 votes, both from Tony and Carly?
Did I know that? I think I knew that Carly. Let me think about this. This was a long time ago. I can't remember. I think this is where I had the conversation with Carly where I wanted Tony to go and she wanted Todd to go. And I think I asked her at one point, who do you want to vote out if it's not this person? And she just like looks at me and doesn't say anything. And I'm like, you want to vote me out, don't you? And she's like, yeah, I do. And that was the point at which we were just like, yeah, we're not playing together anymore. It was very amicable. It was actually a hilarious conversation, but it was just like so clear that we were not aligned. I think I knew Carly was gonna vote. I think I knew Carly wasn't going to vote with us. And then I don't know if I knew who Tony was going to vote for. But I knew that I had to vote Tony. And I wasn't confident that the numbers were going to work out if I didn't.
Gotcha. The numbers were just too slim to just throw your vote somewhere.
Yeah, I think because I wasn't confident that Carly was going to vote with us. I ended up having to write Tony's name down. And that was like ridiculously difficult for me to do. Like I should have just done it and not been worried about it. But I spent so much time in that scramble thinking about how I could do this without writing Tony's name down. Because I just really didn't want to break that promise to him. Because I do think, he gave me information at a pivotal time in the game. The problem was just that at the time when I told him I wouldn't write his name down until 4, this was not the 6 people I intended to be at 6, so it's quite a different layout of people than what I thought at that, several votes ago.
Just confirming a question from Parker, why Tony this vote instead of Carlos? This is because you're concerned that Tony is becoming a person everyone wants to sit at the end with?
Yes, correct. I was very concerned that everyone wanted to take Tony to the end. So that was my order at that point. It was like, who is the person that everyone most wants to take to the end? That's the name I want out.
So Tony ends up going out in a 4-2 votes. Carly plays her idol for herself. It's the last time to do so. And that's going to wrap up day 7. How are you feeling sitting in the final 5 again?
Really good. Really good at this point. I know I have Todd 100%. I think Carlos is the next person I want out. And I think it's pretty clear to me that a lot of people don't think they can beat Carlos in the end. So I feel fairly good about that vote coming together. So it seems like, Austin and Carly did become a little bit more strategically aligned at this point. But being in a final 5 with somebody as solid as Todd was a really good feeling.
So the next morning you have your final 5 immunity challenge. This is basically the Bush Guide quiz, but you're not told who wins until after the votes are cast. How'd you feel you did in this challenge?
I knew this was happening at some point, but as per usual, I did well, but not well enough. No, I knew I was going to get the majority of the questions right, but also I knew that you were going to have to get 100% of them right to win, and that was not likely for me. So, yeah, this challenge is always interesting when they don't tell you who wins, because it's all about perception and how much you can get people to think that you may have won. So,
who do you think had won the challenge?
Oh, Carly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think Carly had read that guide several times. She's very smart, and she has a great memory. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, naturally, I think we were very concerned about Carly winning that challenge.
So you think Carly's winning the challenge, and so that kind of leaves just Carlos is the only person that you really can target?
Yeah. At that point, it was time for Carlos.
Was
If he
there
had made it one more vote, that would have been that. So
were there any arguments you were hearing to try to sway you that you actually considered?
So we weren't going to vote Carly, and I was never going to write down Todd's name. So the other vote that we could have made was Austin. And I think, Carlos, Todd, and so this was when Todd and I had some confusing conversations. This was kind of hilarious. Yeah, so I think, I had a conversation with Austin about voting Carlos and had that conversation with Todd as well about voting Carlos. But then we had a conversation with Carlos, myself and Todd, where we talked about voting Austin. I think after Carlos walked away, Todd was like, wait, so are we voting Austin? And I was like, no, Todd, we're voting Carlos. Like, what are you thinking? Like, we are not voting Austin right now. Are you kidding me? So yeah, I always knew I wanted to vote Carlos in that vote. And I think, everyone had all their cards on the table, so that there were no idols left. So it was just, do we actually think Carlos could have won this challenge or not? And everyone kind of was assuming Carly won it. So, yeah.
Well, Allison ends up winning it and negates a vote that gets cast against them. And you, Austin, and Todd are lockstep and vote out Carlos in a 3-1-1.
Yep.
And so now we return to the unfinished business, the season of you're in Final Four.
Yes.
And what better way to commemorate Final Four than with your favorite Final Four challenge?
No. No, I was not happy to see this challenge. Not happy at all.
And so talk me through the challenge.
Yeah, so I knew that of the stations leading up to the puzzle, the throwing one was the one that took me the longest the prior year. So I was just like, I'm just going to knock that one out. However long it takes me is how long it takes. This puzzle takes forever, so it doesn't really matter how long it takes on any other station. As we were starting this challenge, I was so annoyed that I did not think more about the strategy for this puzzle, because I legitimately hadn't done anything about this puzzle since the last time I played. So
you were blacking out like never again.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that was better for me this time was that I knew that Todd and I were going to vote together. So it was going to be a 2-2 at the worst, and
you're comfortable with fire.
I'm comfortable making fire, but I'm not particularly comfortable making it very fast. And I think there's a lot of variation in what kind of fire making materials and what kind of flint and striker they give you, what kind of they could give you a box of stuff that you've never used before. So yeah, I know I can make fire, but I always use toilet paper in camp. Why would I not? It's so easy to light.
That's the true secrets.
Yeah, I mean, why not? It's just faster. I'm not going to try to sit there forever and make a fire when I have a roll of toilet paper right there that no one's going to use. So yeah, I wouldn't have been excited to go to fire, but yeah, I mean, if I lose at fire, I lose at fire. That is what it is.
Well, the challenge, as you said, the puzzle instant insanity can last a while, and it did, but you end up pulling it out at the very end.
Oh yeah, I was so happy to win that challenge. I was concerned that Carly was going to win that challenge. She was a little behind in getting to the puzzle, but I knew she's really good at puzzles, and I was concerned that she was gonna get me on that challenge. But yeah, it was amazing to win that one. It felt so good.
And so the strategy for this vote, was there any world where you vote Austin, or for you it's Carly needs to go and I just need to make sure that Austin...
Yeah. There was a lot of worlds in which I voted Austin. So this was a decision right here. So so we got back to camp. Carly was a little upset because she felt like the decision had already been made. And so
Mhm.
I had a conversation with Carly, a pretty lengthy conversation with Carly. And I did feel at that moment like I had a better chance of beating Carly than I did of beating Austin. But I think I felt like I could beat both of them in final tribal council. So then I talked to Todd and I was like, Todd, I think there's a legitimate chance that we would be better off taking Carly than Austin. And he really wanted to take Austin to the end. And I don't think he had really considered this idea of taking Carly to the end instead. And so we had a very, very long conversation about this. And it was funny because both of us actually ended up coming to an agreement that we would go with what the other one said. So he came to an agreement. He was like, all right, if you really want to take Carly, I'll take Carly. And I ended up saying, if you really want to take Austin, I'll take Austin. And because that was always our plan. And I felt like maybe I was just getting nervous and like I should just stick with the original plan. Like I was like, I can beat Austin. I think I played it, just as good of a game as Austin. Obviously that ended up not being true. But I was confident either way. And so we ended up taking Austin. But I would say that this was a very, very difficult decision. And my mind particularly was not made up.
This may not be a game you'd like to play, but had Carly been at Final Tribal with you, do you think there are votes for Austin that would have swung your way instead?
I don't know. That would be an interesting question to ask. I don't have regrets about this decision because I do legitimately think I played just as good of a game as Austin. I think the one thing that I did not realize is how Austin's relationships with some people on the jury were not something that I knew about at this point. But I mean, Austin played a great game, but I don't regret taking him to the end.
So the last things you do is you have a final challenge, a snake puzzle. Winner gets an undisclosed advantage, which you win, and you learn that you get to block a vote from a jury member. You end up choosing Skylar, which ended up being a correct decision because Skylar voted for Austin. Were there anyone else you were thinking about?
Yeah, so I was originally thinking about Josh. But because people were saying that he and Austin were so close and in the beginning, but I thought that Josh would be a jury member who would listen to the final tribal and make a decision. And I legitimately thought I played a better game and that Josh might actually be convinced by that. I had no idea what Amber and Reynolds were going to vote, but I knew Skylar and Austin were extremely close. And so I ended up blocking Skylar's vote.
Now, had you got an extra vote, would it have just gone to Sharif?
Yeah, obviously.
Okay. So
who else would I have given it to?
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, after Sharif, I probably would have gone to Adam next. So yeah.
Final tribal council arrives. Generally, it seems like, from my impression, that Todd was not being considered strongly by the jury. The jury had a lot of questions focusing on him, but it was clear they weren't really considering him for their votes. It ends up being really a showdown between you and Austin at the end.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I really have a lot of respect for Todd. I was very happy to play with him through the entire game, but I knew going into that final tribal that he was not going to get any votes. It's just the style of game that he played, and the style of games that people on the jury, were looking at. And I think some of the things that he said about people's games, were causing people to not want to vote for him. But yeah, I thought my opening was really good. I thought that I came out of that final tribal, full disclosure, thinking that I won. I think I was surprised by Tony's comments during final tribal. I don't think I was particularly shocked by anything that anyone else said. I thought I answered questions well. I do think that there were probably maybe a few things I could have articulated better. I really wanted to focus on, I feel like the focus of my game was a lot on shield management, like managing the other people who were acting as shields for me throughout the game. And I really just wanted to articulate that I felt like I played my own game. Like I felt like I played the best game available to me, given my personality, my style of play, my strengths, my weaknesses. I feel like I articulated that well, especially about my social game and why I chose not to try to make very deep relationships with everyone on every tribe always. So yeah, I felt like I did the best that I could. The votes came down where they did. I really felt like I could have, I needed Carlos's vote or Josh's vote, and I didn't get either. So that's the way it happens sometimes. Maybe there's something I could have said a little bit differently to make Carlos vote for me instead of Austin. I think he ended up voting for Austin because he thought Austin ruined his game, which is partially true. And I think he had a lot of respect for that. It's partially true, but yeah, I don't know if there's anything I could have said to get either of their votes. It did seem like they were both legitimately a bit up in the air. So that was upsetting, but I don't have any regrets.
So looking back at the season whole, are there any decision points or things you think you maybe could have done differently to help get you to a different place at the end game?
I think, like I said, I think the alliance management in the vote where the first flip happened was a legitimate strategic error on my part, well, on our part as an alliance, but particularly on my part. I think one of my weaknesses is always like managing, my second tier relationships, because that's challenging for me. So maybe I could have done a little bit better on that, but I do feel like I came in with a strategy in mind. I executed that strategy. I was focused on who I did not want to go, and I did not want to drive votes in the beginning or really the middle of the game. I won challenges. I wanted to play really hard and win challenges. I did that. I proved that I could win just as many challenges as somebody like Todd or someone like Austin, which is something I really wanted to do. I feel like, people's first impressions in Survivor are a big deal. I feel like, gender dynamics play a key role in Survivor in a lot of situations. And I really wanted to play a specific type of game, which I did. So,
I mean, do you feel like you've success? I mean, I know we talk about unfinished business as like, hey, I made Final Four the first time. I just want to come win. Given what you accomplished this game, you won 3 immunities, you found an immunity idol, you ran votes, you had a lot of control of your own destiny. Do you feel like you resolved a lot of that unfinished business, or there's still some things that left outstanding for you?
Yeah, I did. No, I'm very, very happy with the game I played. I played the game I wanted to play. I think if I had gone back in the game, I can't really think of any decisions that I made that I would have said, oh, I could have won if I did this. I think I did everything I came to do. And so, although I was disappointed not to win, I don't have any regrets.
Is there anything else about your game that you want to kind of talk or dive into that we haven't had a chance to?
I don't think so. I think we've covered most everything. Yeah, I'm comfortable. I think we've covered most everything.
Okay. And within 2 hours and 3 minutes. So you are efficient, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. I told you I wasn't going for 3 hours. So it's also been like long enough that I'm starting to forget things. So
this is what I get for taking a slower pace instead of doing 6 interviews in 1 week. So that's on me.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. And I think I didn't get a chance to say this at the beginning, but I definitely just want to thank Parker for all the hard work running the season. I know he put a lot into it, and, and everyone else on production, Pete, the whole production team. It was a really good experience. I know how much effort it takes to run a game like this. So definitely appreciate all of their efforts in putting this together. So it was a privilege to get to play again.
Well, as we wrap up, I would like to kind of throw some rapid fire questions at you. And
just go for it.
First thing that comes to your mind. So who from your original season still has unfinished business?
Oh, well, a lot of people, but definitely Sharif.
Who from this current season still hasn't finished business?
Frank.
What was your favorite challenge?
Well, this time I'll have to say Final Four immunity.
I don't know. From your reaction to it, I'm still debating whether that was your favorite or not.
Well, it was only my favorite because I won this time. But
what was your favorite camp life moment? Besides Frank nearly killing you with fire.
That was not my favorite camp life moment. No, I think it was probably like talking at the fire at my original camp. I really, both Skylar and Adam, I was really like excited to get to know them, and they were both really wonderful people to get to spend so much time with.
Who do you wish you had a chance to work with but didn't?
Good question. Oh, Taylor.
Mm-hmm. Who surprised you the most out there?
Carly.
What was your lowest moment in the game?
Immediately after Murgatory.
What was your highest moment?
Winning the Final Four immunity.
Shot in the dark, love it or hate it?
I definitely don't love it. Hate's a strong word, but I definitely don't love it.
What do you feel like you've taken away something from this season that you've learned about yourself?
That I've learned about myself. That's a hard question. That's a hard rapid fire question. No, I think, my biggest takeaway from this season is just that it's important to be really intentional with what you're doing.
You played Reelfoot, you played Survival Challenge. Will there be other games in your future, you think?
I don't currently have plans to play any other games. I do feel like, playing these games is obviously all about wanting to test yourself and see what you're capable of. And I do feel like I played a really good game during unfinished business. And so I don't really have anything left unanswered for me other than, maybe CBS Survivor.
Well, we need more people to take the jump from live reality games to the CBS Survivor, and it'd be thrilling to see you there.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna make an audition video that's gonna pass the Jeff Probst
you never know
test, but yeah, maybe someone in this wonderful world can help me with that.
Is there anyone or anything you want to shout out here as we close?
No, again, I want to, shout out Parker and the whole production team for making this happen. I want to shout out my parents for coming to watch me. I'm glad they came on some very exciting days. So really, it was just really great to see them there, supporting me, even though we didn't actually get to spend much time together because I was in the game. So yeah, but appreciate the support for sure.
Megan, just thank you so much for your time tonight, for talking with me. I loved having a chance to speak with you last year. It was even better to speak to you again this year and see you play a phenomenal game. I just want to say thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thanks for doing this. I know you spend many, many hours talking to all of us, and really just appreciate being able to rehash the game and, relive it one more time before we're done.
Well, for everyone tuning in, thank you so much for listening as well. This was the 5th postseason interview for Reelfoot, and tomorrow night we'll have Josh, Megan's nemesis, come on and talk about his game. So
now I get to watch everyone's interviews.
I know. Now you get to watch everyone's interviews, and often setting a record for interview time too that no one will ever be allowed to surpass.
No, definitely not.
All right, but again, Megan, thank you so much, and thank you all for listening, and have a good rest of your night.